Hello, everybody. Good to see you. And thanks for joining us again. Well, here we are, still in lockdown and in a sort of state of flux, really. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis. Funnily enough, we put the May issue of the magazine to bed on Friday, and I'd held off until the last minute before finalising the conference diary, the list of upcoming events. And only today, Tuesday, I find that now 3 of those events listed are not happening at all, or are happening at another time, or in the case of the EPCA annual meeting in Budapest in early October, will now take the form of a virtual meeting, which is interesting. But it's also interesting that organisers are now looking to as far ahead as late September. The TSA conference in the UK has been cancelled for this year, and the EPCA meeting in October. So there's clearly a feeling that even if the lockdown has been lifted and we're getting back to normal, people will not be keen to be travelling and spending hours locked in a room with hundreds of other people from all over the world. Well, I certainly don't want to be doing that. And you'll probably find me still here in this comfortable office in October. And yeah, things are developing, as I said, day to day, and it's tough to keep up with all the latest information. As I intimated, I think it was last week, some of the 4PLs in particular are being very helpful in providing updates on what's going on. BDP International, I mentioned, CLX Logistics also, which has got a very useful weekly update on its website. But it's not just industry that's affected, of course. We don't want to be going and sitting in a conference with delegates from all over the world, and neither, of course, do the regulators. And we are seeing now some of the important regulatory meetings in the field of dangerous goods transport that are being postponed or cancelled altogether. For instance, the scheduled meeting of WP15, that's the body that oversees the ADR agreement for road transport, was due to have its, I think, the 108th session next month, May. And that's been cancelled. WP15 will now next meet in November. The important point here, of course, is that the May meeting was scheduled to adopt, really, the final draft text of the amendments that will appear in the 2021 edition of ADR. The fact that it won't be meeting means that there are some issues that will not have been finalised. And the November meeting is far too late to make any substantial changes to the text. And so what is going to happen, I understand from the Department for Transport in London, is that ADR 2021 will include only those amendments that have already been agreed and adopted. There will necessarily be some corrections, possibly further amendment to the provisions already agreed. Those will be circulated to contracting parties for final agreement by correspondence and publication by the UNECE Secretariat. It's good news in some way. It means that the number of amendments to ADR next year won't be as many as they might have been had they had the chance to finalise more changes in May. But it possibly means that there are some important, from a safety standpoint, amendments that have not been able to be finalised. Still, they will do what they can. A similar position has faced the RID Committee of Experts Standing Working Group, which also met last November for its, I think that was the 11th session, and was due to have its 12th session again in May to finalise the 2021 text. Similarly, the amendments that will appear in RID 2021 are only those that have been agreed and adopted at the last two sessions of the Standing Working Group. The RID Committee of Experts meeting for May has also been cancelled. And so once again, the Secretariat will prepare a consolidated list of the amendments already adopted for circulation and agreement by correspondence. I also understand that the meetings in June and July of the two UN subcommittees, that's the Transport of Dangerous Goods subcommittee and the GHS subcommittee, will not be going ahead. Those of you who follow these matters closely will know that each regulatory biennium features 4 meetings of each of the two subcommittees, with a final meeting scheduled for December this year of the parent committee, which will finally give its approval to the changes for the model regulations and GHS for publication at some point next year. And you may also know that the third session of that biennium is the one where an awful lot of work gets finalised. They don't like to hold on to until the December sessions of the subcommittees to make substantive amendments. So it's a bit worrying from that point of view that there's a lot of work that would have gone on in the upcoming sessions of those two subcommittees that now will not happen. It may happen in December, but who knows, they may get delayed or postponed themselves. So again, we shall have to wait and see what's happening with that. This is not to say that the regulators haven't been busy. There have been quite a lot of notices and alerts put out by certainly by PHMSA in the States and also FMCSA to provide some relief from the requirements for this or the other. It's usually things like recurrent training, periodic inspection of tanks and so on, and packaging recertification tests. Interestingly, I noticed that FMCSA is making provision to allow remote renewal of CDL, commercial driver licenses. Whereas in Europe, certainly in the UK, the Department for Transport has decided not to allow that. And also, while it will be allowing virtual training in DGSA, for instance, the DGSA exam cannot be held virtually because of course, the invigilator needs to be present. It's very difficult to figure out how that might happen. Results of the last round of exams in early March are yet to be published as well. But apart from that, both PHMSA in the States and Transport Canada as well have a lot of information on their websites about temporary arrangements. And if you are working in those countries, they're certainly worth looking at. In the UK, the Health and Safety Executive has also put together some short-term changes in its expectations from industry. So here we are now, 7 weeks. This is my 7th week of isolation anyway. And things are changing. The logistics network has responded to the challenges quite well, I think. And we may come back to that next week. But for now, I just wanted to thank you for watching. I hope you're keeping well and safe. And I look forward to seeing as many of you as can make it next week. Bye for now.